Video games are not easy to make. With games having better and better graphics each year, along with more content, it requires more manpower to create models, textures, and engaging gameplay that leaves the players wowed. This causes an issue though. The longer a game takes to make, the more things changes. New directors, developers, and sometimes the game is just too ambitious so the content gets skewed. Today, I want to go over some games that went through that hell and came out with only minor scratches and bruises. So here's 3 games that survived development hell. Probably the most famous on the list, we have No Man's Sky, an open-world exploration survival game developed by Hello Games, a company that went from creating small linear game titles to an ambitious project that many AAA companies fail at. From 2013 to 2016, we had the development of No Man's Sky, and while not having a very long development time, this was not because the game was ready to be released, but instead, quite the opposite. When the game first launched, it was very boring and very ugly. Yes, they have 18 quintillion possible planets, but when the planets most players were starting off on looked like this, let's just say it turned people off from playing the game. Missing features, bugs, and the worst of all, silence from the developers that almost cost the game its future all plagued the early life of the game. Luckily though, as time went on, slowly but surely updates dropped, adding new content, fixing bugs, making planets more unique, and forward the game went. But it didn't stop there. Though Hello Games had proved to the gaming landscape that they weren't going to let their hard work get put down so easily, they wanted more. Better gameplay, better looking worlds, more content than promised before. The Foundation update added base building. That same year, we got vehicles, base sharing, and more. The Visions update added brighter colors to the planets and more diverse vegetation. Desolation added creepy abandoned ships, allowing players to scavenge them with risks scattered along the way. The updates were abundant, and they were clear. No Man's Sky wasn't just going to survive, it was going to prosper. And even now, the game is flourishing with constant updates and a current semi-revamp of the game's worlds, with the update fittingly named World Part 1, which aims to do a planet overhaul, add new fauna, discovery renaming, simulate better water and clouds, and improved atmospherics. Not even a few months later, they added a fishing update to keep the players engaged. Not to mention that this is all while they're working on their new quote-unquote first real open world game, Light No Fire, but that is a story for another time. Bioshock, a beloved series but not one without its own issues. Bioshock Infinite was in development from 2008 to 2013. 5 years for a single player experience that was meant to be released on the last gen was considered quite a long time. Looking to the game deeper, we'll probably figure out why. But let's start with the question from the people in the back. What is Bioshock Infinite? The game tells the story of Booker DeWitt and Elizabeth. Booker, a former Pinkerton in a dystopian world, and Elizabeth, a mysterious powerful girl entrapped in a 1912s flying dystopia of Columbia. Having such an ambitious idea for the game sounds good on paper, but some things caused issues around the development of the game. The engine used to run on the original Bioshock, Unreal Engine 2, was too inadequate for what they had planned for Infinite's gameplay. Another thing brought up is while there was no gameplay from 2008 to 2010, we do have a trailer to go off of, and the game looks very different from what we got in 2013. Though many people say that the original reveal trailer takes place in a universe where Booker didn't save Elizabeth and ended up dying as a result. We can also see some scrapped ideas, like instead of Columbia being levitated by hot air balloons like in the trailer, the final game has some sort of quantum levitation system keeping it up. Though I couldn't find too much on the main development, Jason Schreier's book, Press Reset, tells us a little bit more about what was happening. In 2012, a year before release, Don Roy was brought in to help finalize the game. When he arrived, he said he was surprised that there wasn't even a game to come out. There was bundles of content that showed up in the form of a game, but not a playable game at all. Even asking one of the developers for a build, he was told that wasn't possible. The game experienced bloat like no other. Outsourcing that wasted time and a lack of direction. For example, in the same book, Don Roy says, "We were outsourcing a lot of stuff and it was never making it in the game because the process wasn't established. People were asking for things and they'd eventually get it made, but then they'd move on. So when the art came back, they actually said, 'No, I don't need that anymore.'" Despite all these issues though, a year later in 2013 when the game was released, it was received fairly positively. Even now, the game is held in extremely high regard, though there's its fair share of critics that like to overanalyze things about the game, albeit justifiably. Announced all the way back in 2014, for 8 years Dead Island 2 was locked in development hell, and unlike No Man's Sky's lack of content and Bioshock's lack of direction, Dead Island 2 suffered from one of the most common forms of development hell: lack of a home. Switching developers 2 different times before finally finding its home at Dambuster Studios, Dead Island 2's original gameplay scared a lot of fans. While not looking bad for a pre-alpha game in 2014, the world itself lacked passion. Even though it was a pre-alpha, it was gameplay that they were willing to show off to the public, gameplay that lacked in some areas. While the combat and gore didn't look too bad, compared to the previous 2 games, it was definitely a strange tone and style switch that didn't set well with a lot of fans. And it seems that the publisher, Deep Silver, agreed, as in 2016 the developer was changed for the first time to Sumo Digital, though for unknown reasons in 2019, again the developers were changed to the previously mentioned Dambuster Studios. Dead Island 2, probably losing a lot of budget, developers, and passion along the way, then switched the world design philosophy from being a semi-open world game like the previous 2 Dead Islands to a more linear, self-centered parody of the zombie apocalypse in California. And it seems like that was their best idea, as in August of 2022 when we got our first look at the gameplay, the world design, the characters, the acting, and most importantly, the gore all looked fantastic. Being able to shift less development time on giant open areas filled with bloat, they were able to focus on the gore engine, rightfully named Flesh. This engine was created from the ground up and definitely set the bar for where games should aim if they want a chance at making the perfect zombie slaying game. Now obviously this game isn't perfect and the reviews by critics and fans show that, but for a game that went through 8 years of painful development, just to come out on the other end with revolutionary gore physics, a fun cast of likable characters, and a smaller, more memorable world, I think Dambuster Studios did an amazing job. Though there were definitely signs of the budget being quite low in some of the areas. And that's it for today's slop video. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more games that survive development hell, make sure to smash that like button because I got more slop for you guys coming within the next few days. And again, thank you for watching.